This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social, delighted to be joined as always by Frank Warren. We're here at the O2 in the wee hours of the morning, following Daniel Dubois Tko victory over Nathan Gorman. Frank, first and foremost, great show. Let's work from the top and work our way down. Talk to me about that performance from Daniel Dubois.
Well, he boxed extremely well. He maintained his discipline throughout the fight. He showed what a mature young man he is in his performance. The jab was superb. We know the power's there, and he was in with Nathan, who both of them were in great shape and great condition. Both of them very confident, and Nathan come to fight. Nathan caught him with a couple of good shots, which he took. I just thought it was a sensational win.
We saw both men throw caution to the win from the opening bell. Do you think that's kind of one of the positives of seeing two guys who aren't the most experienced going off against each other?
I don't think it's so much about caution. I didn't think he did. I thought he really worked well behind his jab. I mean, it was. They both can bang, they're both big punchers. And I said before the fight, somebody said to me, oh, it's a boxer versus a puncher. I said, it's not. They both can box. They both can punch. And he showed he could box by using his jab. That was what for me, which was the difference in the two of them in the fight.
And the build-up to this fight, I mean, people kind of reference back to James DeGale versus George Groves and how you can rebuild off a loss and kind of the positives of two prospects meeting off against each other. With that being said, where does Nathan Gorman go from here?
Well, I think Nathan's with me, and I'll make sure that we're given the opportunity to come back. I mean, I was off the top of my head. I was thinking to myself, what a fight between Joe Joyce and him would be. But that's off the top of my head. Obviously, I've not spoken to anybody yet, but whatever happens, we'll have him out again.
Won't hold you to that then. Daniel Dubois moving forwards. Great performance. A real coming of age night, I think it's fair to say. Looked a level above Nathan in there. Where does he go? Is he going to hang around British level? Are you going to look to kind of bridge that gap for him?
No, yeah. He'll be out again in September, and we'll look and see what the opportunities are and go from there. But he's an excellent, he's an excellent young heavyweight, and I think probably the best young heavyweight out there by far.
You mentioned Joe Joyce, unanimous decision over Joyce-Jennings. A lot of people had it quite a lot closer than the judges. How did you see the fight?
I thought he won it by about. I don't know what the scores were, but I thought he won it by about 4 or 5 rounds, especially with the point that was taken off. I always said it would be a tough fight, him and Jennings. I said before, it's your 10th fight, and you're going in with a guy who's been around the block, and was when he was fighting Reavers, who's fighting Dillian White next week. Right up until the last round, he was well in front until he got clipped. So he's a good mover, good boxer. And Joe, as much as he's got a wealth of amateur experience, 9 fights as a pro isn't a lot of experience for a boxer. But he did what he had to do and came through it at the end of the day. He showed he's got plenty of heart. Got clipped a few times, was getting caught a few times, so he's got things to work on, like any young heavyweight has to do. Or any heavyweight who's not had a lot of professional fights.
I was just about to say that. Young's not a word to describe Joe. He'll forgive me for saying that.
He's fit and he's well and he's fast. So anyway, bottom line is he's got a few things to work on, but he's beat a guy who was ranked above him in the rankings.
Where I was going with that is he in a little bit of a race against time at this stage of his career? 33 years old, is he going to have to keep going up?
I don't get all that thing, but he wants to put his foot on the gas. I think you can do that, and sometimes you can crash into a wall. And what you need to do is, you need to step back and look at what's happened, and look at fights that, learning from, need learning fights. Not just going straight in the deep end, but that's a choice that they've made, and that's the way they want to go. Me, I would temper it a bit and think about it.
Yeah, sure, I agree with that. I mean, Joyce-Jennings in your 10th fight is no mean feat, so I agree with what you're saying there. Liam Williams is turned into some sort of vicious puncher at middleweight.
He's settled down, hasn't he, with Dominic, and he seems to be really happy up there, and he's showing what he's showing now. What we've seen in the early days of his career, but he's looking more mature now, and he's a banger, and we're looking to step him up in his next fight.
I was talking about Gennady Golovkin earlier on in this week. Based on that performance, that's probably a fight I'd like to see. Is that realistic?
Not at this stage, but who knows? Maybe in a year's time he needs to, a few more fights to get himself in the rankings. He needs to get a big scalp on his belt. He's twice in with Liam Smith, you know, who's world champion, twice in with him, fought for the world title twice. He needs to fight somebody of that ilk again and beat him, and he's quite capable of doing that.
Elsewhere on the card, Sonny Edwards, who opened the live show on BT. Another performance where he had to show a little bit of everything, a bit of boxing, a bit of showboating. What did you make of Sonny's performance?
He does everything, doesn't he? I mean, he's a brilliant little fighter. I love him, I do. I mean, he's the art of hitting and not being hit, and he's a great exponent of that. It was a mature performance against a tough Mexican who didn't want, you know, it was never say die with a Mexican, wasn't it? He was chasing all around the ring all night. So he's a good little fighter, and that's great getting those rounds in the bank for him.
And we spoke about Joe Joyce earlier on. I mean, Sonny's kind of the opposite end with certainly age-wise. He's somebody.
Flyweights are different. You can do it, you know. Flyweights, you've got more chance there than the heavyweights.
Where I was going with that is, I mean, I know Sonny, and Sonny's somebody who wants the biggest fights, the best fights, and the best opposition.
We're getting the biggest and best fights, and we look at where he's at this stage of his career, but every time he steps into the ring, he looks a much better and more complete fighter.
Final one for tonight's show. Archie Sharp was in a great fight with Jordan McCory. Got quite a little nice super featherweight coup brewing around there with a few fights.
Well, we've got to now sort out Archie with one of them. Well, Sam Bowen's got a mandatory defence, and the winner of that. It's another great fight for them all. It's not the end of the world, as I say, for losers, whoever loses. But Archie looks really well. He boxed well tonight. There was moments he was in with a guy who's a real competitor, as we know, tough fella. You got to take your hat off to Geordie. He came down there to fight. He doesn't, you know, he's. I'd have him on any of my shows anytime. He gives 100% every time he steps into the ring. So hats off to him. But Archie done extremely well.
Archie Sharp versus Zelfa Barrett potentially.
Maybe that's another one to look at. So you know they're all there to fight each other.
Final one. We were pleasantly surprised yesterday by the announcement of Anthony Yarde travelling to Russia. Great fight. Talk to me about it.
Well, it's a great fight. It's a great opportunity for him, but it's a tough call to go to Russia in Kovalev's own backyard in the city that he comes from. But that's what he signed up for. That's what we're doing. I've got tremendous confidence in him. He's got tremendous self-belief. He's got tremendous talent. He can punch. He can box. And he really does fancy the job. He's really up for the job, Anthony. And whatever anybody thinks about it, you have big cojones to go out there, and that shows you what he's made of.
You've kind of made your name as a promoter by guiding fighters and giving them the right fights at the right time. Anthony is somebody who's been criticised in his career for potentially not doing that, yet he's now going to fight Sergey Kovalev. What makes you believe that it's now the right time for Anthony Yarde to beat Sergey Kovalev?
First of all, the greatest respect in the world. The people who criticise him, I don't know what they're watching. You know, as I said, he had very limited amateur experience, and he is where he is, and he's fought himself into the number one position. That's where we are now. So he wants it, we want it, and I do believe he's another one. If he catches you, he'll take you out, and he's not a bad boxer. So now, and the worst case, if he got beat, which I don't think he will, but if he got beat, it's a great learning fight for him, and that's where we're at.
Spoke to Tunde Ajayi a couple of months back, and he spoke about VADA testing as being a potential hiccup in that, and that was a potential reason for the delay.
It's all in the contract, it's all dealt with, and everybody's enrolled for it.
Is that from now, or is that backdated?
Right. Well, you can't backdate it, can you? Because you can only do it from when the contract's signed.
I didn't know whether there potentially would have been an agreement where it was already in place.
Yeah, we only finally signed only got the contracts signed off yesterday.
But there's no concerns for you with VADA testing only a 6-week window?
Well, it's more than 6 weeks, but it is what it is.
Okay, well, Frank Warren, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. Congratulations on a lovely night of boxing here at the O2.
As always.
Thanks, Frank. Nice one.